declare recess at any time. Hearing no objections, so ordered. Without objection, members will be recognized in order of committee seniority for questioning witnesses today. This will make it easier for me to ensure all members participating have an opportunity to be recognized. I want to welcome everybody to today's Economic Opportunity Subcommittee Oversight hearing entitled Securing High Demand Jobs for Veterans. Today, our subcommittee will review the Veteran Employment Through Technology Education Courses, or VETTech program, as well as the Veterans Rapid Retraining Assistance Program, or VRAP. Through the VETTech training program, VA covers full-time tuition costs and housing expenses for enrolled participants. Since its inception in 2019, nearly 5,000 veterans have used VETTech to train for jobs in the high-tech industry. The subject areas in which a veteran can train are those not traditionally covered by other VA educational assistance programs, including computer software, information science, media application, data processing, and computer programming. VETTech incentivizes training providers to adequately prepare veteran participants for employment in their field of study by paying tuition and fees in increments, meaning the training provider does not receive a full reimbursement of tuition costs unless a veteran obtains meaningful employment after completing their program. The employment rate for veterans who complete their VETTech program is around 72%, and their average salary is roughly $60,000. I'll be interested to hear from VA today about how those data points compare against industry averages and any goals or plans they have for improvement. We've also seen that veteran demand for VETTech routinely outstrips the program's funding. At the beginning of the pilot, VETTech had an authorization of $15 million per year, which was exhausted within months after the program opened to applications. In my legislation, the Johnny Isakson and David P. Rowe Veterans Healthcare and Benefits Improvement Act of 2020, this committee increased the authorization of VETTech to $45 million per year. I look forward to continuing to work with the VA and the minority to discuss how we can build off the success of the VETTech pilot to give more veterans the opportunity to expand their skill set for jobs in the high-tech industry. As we discuss the future of VETTech today, I'll be interested to hear from our witnesses how VA and training providers would scale this program in an effective manner to serve all eligible veterans interested in participating. Today, we'll also discuss VRAP, a temporary assistance program which Congress authorized the American Rescue Plan Act in response to pandemic-induced job loss. VRAP was intended to give veterans who had previously used their full GI Bill entitlement and were unemployed due to the pandemic the chance to quickly train for new careers and enter into high-demand occupations. This committee worked closely with VA to develop VRAP and set the authorized levels of participation and funding based off anticipated veteran demand for the program. The funding cap on VRAP is $386 million, and the maximum number of participants that can enroll is 17,250. When one of those thresholds is met, the program is exhausted. However, VRAP authorization expires in just 10 months on December 11th, 2022, and any funding not used before then will be returned to the Treasury. As of last month, VA had only allocated 26% of its authorized VRAP funding, and fewer than 4,000 veterans had enrolled in a training course. We're interested in hearing from VA and our non-governmental witnesses today about why program enrollment is lagging and any plans to increase participation. I appreciated the opportunity to speak with our VA witness, Mr. Ricardo Da Silva, about these issues last month. Mr. Da Silva, good to see you, and I look forward to following up on our discussion. Time is of the essence to improve VRAP so veterans can take advantage of this benefit to develop the skills they need before the program's authorization expires in December. So I'm ready to dive into this discussion with our witnesses, and I'll conclude my comments there and recognize my friend, the ranking member, Mr. Moore, for any opening remarks he may wish to make. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you for holding this oversight hearing on current programs that help veterans secure good paying positions and occupations with high growth. As we all know, COVID-19 pandemic had a significant impact on the U.S. economy over the past 2 years. I believe that as we rebuild the economy back to the level set by President Trump, we have a unique opportunity to empower veterans for success in decades to come. I believe that as we rebuild the economy, we know that traditional higher education may not be the best option for student veterans. They may have financial or family obligations that don't allow them to spend 4 years getting a degree for a job that may not exist. In April of 2021, the Brookings Institute released a concerning statistic that 1/3 of the jobs lost during the COVID-19 pandemic will be lost permanently, and that those employees will probably not return to their previous employer. That is why our continued oversight of the VTech and Vrap programs are so crucial to ensuring that we prepare veterans for lucrative jobs that require non-traditional education and training. I would like to start first with a few thoughts on VTech. This popular program, first authored by Republican leader McCarthy as part of the Forever GI bill, provides a living stipend and tuition for eligible veterans to train for placement in the high-tech field. Unlike other VA education programs, VTech requires the schools to actually have some skin in the game, and they're not able to receive the full payments for tuition and fees until the student completes the program and secures meaningful employment in their specific field. Since the program began in 2019, the results have been nothing short of outstanding. The latest numbers from the VA indicate that VTech has graduated over 3,200 veterans, which equates to an 87% graduation rate, and placed 72% of those graduates in jobs in high-tech fields with an average starting salary of just over $60,000. Mr. Chairman, I think anyone will be hard-pressed to find another government training program that has produced these kind of positive employment outcomes, especially when you consider this program has largely run in the middle of a society-altering pandemic. Today, I hope to discuss the long-term future of VTech and hear from our witnesses who are VTech providers on what is and what is not working with the program. Finally, I would like to discuss the needs for stable funding for this program so it does not run out of funding as it has in the past 2 fiscal years. Mr. Chairman, thanks to the work of Dr. Miller Meeks, you, and the rest of this subcommittee, the House has done our part to pass needed funding increases to keep up with demand. I look forward to our continued work with the Senate to finally enact these changes. I would also like to briefly touch the Veteran Rapid Training Assistance Program, or VRAP as we call it. This proposal was originally authored by Ranking Member Bost in H.R. 637 and enacted as part of the American Rescue Plan. The program enables eligible veterans who are unemployed due to COVID to retrain for replacement in high-demand jobs. I know there are concerns about utilizations of funds available for this program, and I am interested to hear from the VA about why they believe this is occurring and what steps they are taking to promote this program to eligible veterans. The program, like VRAP and VTech, are critical in our efforts to get unemployed veterans back to work in the post-COVID-19 economy. Again, I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing and our witnesses for being here today. And with that, I yield back the balance of my time.
I thank the ranking member for his remarks, and we'll turn now to our first panel today, where we'll hear from the Department of Veterans Affairs. And I'd like to welcome back to our committee Ricardo Da Silva, the Program Integration Officer for Education Services in the Veteran Benefits Administration. Good to see you today. Thanks for joining us. We also have a written statement from the Government Accountability Office, which will be entered into the record. Mr. Da Silva, I'd now like to recognize you for 5 minutes.
Good morning, Chairman Levin, Ranking Member Moore, and other members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today to discuss the progress made by the Department of Veterans Affairs toward implementing the Veteran Rapid Retraining Assistance Program, VRAP, and the success of the Veteran Employment Through Technology Education Courses, VETTech pilot program. VA recognizes the importance of expanding pathways to employment through retraining and innovative education programs, which aid veterans seeking to start or grow their careers in high-demand occupations, and appreciates the work of the committee to expand such opportunities. Part of the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, VRAP requires VA to carry out a retraining program which provides up to 12 months of assistance via covered programs of education to not more than 17,250 eligible veterans who are unemployed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Eligible individuals receive a monthly housing allowance for each month they are in VRAP, and retraining assistance is paid directly to participating schools in the following increments: 50% at the beginning of the training program, 25% at the program's completion, and 25% after the veteran finds employment in a field related to the training. VA collaborated with the Department of Labor to identify high-demand occupations and successfully implemented VRAP within 60 days of enactment. As of January 31st, 2022, there have been over 4,000 VRAP participants. VA has received over 14,000 applications for VRAP, and 10,000 veterans have received a certificate of eligibility. To date, 679 veterans have graduated from a program using VRAP, and just under 100 have been employed as a result of their participation. A total of 962 training providers support VRAP, and VA has allocated $120.5 million of the $386 million in total program funding. VRAP is available until December 11th, 2022, or until the funding or participant limit is reached. However, payments may continue after that date for individuals already pursuing a VRAP program. VA is employing a comprehensive outreach and communications campaign to raise awareness of and encourage participation in VRAP, and is using mass emails, newsletters, social media posts, videos, and briefings to reach veteran and school audiences. VA is conducting analysis of the program to identify gaps and increase program awareness, and is working on fielding a survey and hosting listening sessions to understand why over 5,000 veterans have not used their VRAP certificate of eligibility. VA is also planning additional targeted outreach through public service announcements to increase interest and enrollments. VetTech, a 5-year pilot program, provides eligible veterans with the opportunity to enroll in certain high technology programs of education without charge to their GI Bill entitlement. Through VetTech training programs, veterans acquire high-tech skills to assist them in moving quickly into in-demand jobs in the technology sector. VetTech training programs at 6 to 28 weeks in length allow veterans to complete training and rapidly enter the job market. Since launching VetTech on April 1st, 2019, VA has granted entitlement to almost 39,000 veterans, and currently 1,132 are VetTech students. To date, 3,464 veterans have completed a VetTech program, with 1,788 securing employment. There are 940 graduates currently within their 180-day employment window. On average, VetTech graduates earn an annual salary of just over $61,000 and secure employment within 65 days of completing their VetTech program. In October 2020, VA launched the VetTech Employer Consortium to accelerate hiring opportunities for students and provide them additional employment resources and tools. The collaboration between training providers, employers, and VA within the consortium creates a key space for students to network, attend events hosted by VA and employer partners, and be primed for employment success at the completion of their program. The Employer Consortium supports VA's commitment to shorten the hiring window from the time of program completion to employment. Veteran demand for VetTech continues to be strong, and in January 2021, as part of the Isaacson Rowe Act, and in response to 3 previous funding exhaustions, VetTech's annual funding cap increased to $45 million. VA has allocated $36 million in VetTech funding for fiscal year 2022 and expects available funding to run out this spring. VA understands Congress's goal of providing unemployed veterans with additional benefits to pursue retraining opportunities in high-demand occupations, and appreciates the committee's attention on increasing veteran employment during this time. Mr. Chairman, VA will continue to strengthen its initiatives to achieve this goal. This concludes my testimony, and I welcome any questions that you or other members of the subcommittee may have.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. De Silva. With that, I'll recognize myself for 5 minutes to begin the question portion of the hearing. Mr. De Silva, based on VA's enrollment data for VRAP, it seems unlikely that either the funding or the participant threshold are going to be met before the authorization expires in December. The committee is concerned about what will happen to any remaining funds following the expiration date, and we're also concerned that there's such a slow uptake in program enrollment, considering we base the authorization levels on VA demand estimates. Can you please comment on why participation in VRAP is not meeting its anticipated demand?
Sir, thank you for the question. So certainly our commitment and our objective with VRAP is to spend the entirety of the $386 million. In terms of why there may not be a full utilization or utilization at a higher rate, we did conduct a listening session with veterans, and we've put out the survey that I mentioned in our testimony. And what we have found, in particular with the survey, is that students who have a certificate of eligibility that have not participated in VRAP do intend to use the program, but the timing has not been right for them to start. And then in our listening sessions, we've heard the same similar feedback that students are weighing their options during the pandemic to make the decision whether or not to return to retraining, or into the job market. And so what we are continuing to do, as I mentioned in the testimony, is outreach and engagement with not only students, but schools to encourage the participation in VRAP and to ensure that our veterans are aware of the program and know it's available.
So that's a good segue for my next question. You brought up the thousands of veterans who have received a certificate of eligibility for VRAP but haven't enrolled. When we spoke last month, I was glad to hear the survey that you're going to be rolling out or have been rolling out so we can understand the obstacles those veterans are facing. And you also mentioned a larger survey was being planned for the coming months. Could you provide the committee with an update on the status of both of those surveys? Has the initial survey been released, or if not, what's the expected release date of that?
Thank you for the question. So the initial survey on individuals who have a COE, a certificate of eligibility, but have not used VRAP, we opened that up on Monday of this week and asked folks to begin to take that survey. So it's just at the start. The other survey, which measures progress that students have made after completing a VRAP program, that will roll out in a couple of months as well.
We'll look forward to following up with you on both. The American Rescue Plan required that veterans must be unemployed because of the pandemic at the time they apply for VRAP. How does VA determine whether unemployment is due to the pandemic?
Sir, that is part of the application process. We ask veterans who apply to attest that they are unemployed due to the pandemic.
During our meeting, if you'll recall, I raised concerns that some schools were erroneously advising veterans that they couldn't take side jobs to secure income while participating in the program separately from the unemployment requirement at the time of application. I appreciated the promise to clarify this in a mass communication to all school certifying officials. Can you confirm that that action has been taken?
So we have sent notification to all students, VRAP students, to make them aware that they are able to be employed during their training. We are providing communication during office hours next week to schools to also let them know the same thing, and then we'll include that information and take away emails and the like to all school certifying officials to remind them that there is no prohibition for a student to be employed during VRAP.
And what kind of feedback or questions have you received from schools in response to that notice?
I think schools, in particular with this one, just want to, and we made this clear in our student email as well, that while a student can be employed during their training, certainly the last payment for VRAP is based on their employment in the field that the student has trained in. So schools certainly want to make sure that that's clear to their students, and we support them in that, in making that clarification.
Thank you for that. Lastly, you mentioned in the meeting that VA would be rolling out a public service announcement to increase awareness of VRAP. What's the status update on that effort?
Yeah, thank you for the question. We expect that that'll be on air in the next couple of weeks here in February, both traditional radio, TV ads, and then also a digital campaign via Google Ads, podcast advertisements, and the like.
Okay, well, we'll look forward on following up with you on everything we just discussed. And I'm grateful for your efforts to try to get the utilization numbers up. And with that, I'll yield to the ranking member for his questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Silva, what funding do you think we need to fully meet the demand for the vet tech for a full fiscal year? What level of funding would you think would be needed?
Thank you, sir, for the question. As we have previously testified, we think and estimate that about $125 million a year would provide enough funding to meet the demand in vet tech, which continues to be quite strong in terms of certificates of eligibility and interest in the program.
I got you. And if additional funds are made available for vet tech, do you believe there is enough capacity within existing providers to provide that training?
I think certainly we do have that capacity. Our training providers have that capacity, but it would certainly help us in bringing on new providers. As you can imagine, when we do outreach and communications to those who are not in the program and they ask, is funding available, having to tell them that it's not may prevent them from joining vet tech. So we certainly see that as a positive, would be a positive part there too. Okay, thanks. And an additional question, and this may not be on topic for today, but
Could you confirm for me, it's my understanding that the rules for the GI Bill, if a veteran is given a general discharge under honorable conditions, the veteran is not eligible for the post 9/11 GI Bill. Is that correct?
Sir, I'd be happy to take that one back and give you, clarify and confirm what the rules are around that scenario.
Okay, and if you find out that that is the case, am I correct that the VA has no way to upgrade this discharge through a character service determination process?
So there are processes available, and we can certainly provide you and your staff and the committee further details on how that might happen.
Okay, thank you. Yes, if you don't mind, I'd appreciate that. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back.
Thank the ranking member for his questions. I'd now like to recognize my friend from New Hampshire, Mr. Pappas, if he's still on. Chris, you there? Not hearing from Mr. Pappas, we'll turn now to my friend, Mr. Trone. David, take it away.
Chairman, are we coming through? Okay, great. Thank you for holding this hearing today. I formerly ran a large company, and nothing made us prouder when we could hire vets for our team. It's not only the right thing to do for our country, but also veterans make fantastic employees. Veterans are mission-driven, natural leaders, and excel at teamwork. From your testimony, Mr. Silva, I'm most interested in Vet Tech Employer Consortium. The Vet Tech had a 72% employment rate for veterans who graduated, from their training program. We'd like to see that at 100%. So tell us how the VA build out the Employer Consortium for Vet Tech, and how are we getting the word out to employers? Does the VA reach out? Are the companies expected to find you? How do we make that get closer to 100%?
Thank you for the question. So as I said in the testimony, we launched the consortium in October of 2020 in an effort to provide additional resources and tools to veterans participating in Vet Tech. We have partnered closely with Hiring Our Heroes to help us recruit industry to join the Employer Consortium. We also are a big fan of cold calling and reaching out to employers who have either already hired a Vet Tech participant or who we see have a need for veterans. In particular, we've targeted smaller businesses, those who maybe don't have the capacity from an HR perspective or a people perspective to have special veteran programs or have the capacity to target veterans. So we wanted to bring them into the fold. And certainly what we've seen thus far is a good uptake in partners, but we're always willing and want to bring in additional employers. And so for those interested, they can certainly visit our website. There's information on how to begin that process and joining the consortium and beginning to hire veterans through the Vet Tech program.
So as a follow-up, how does connecting with participating employers work from the veteran's perspective, his or herself? And when does that outreach for job placement begin? And how do we make sure the veterans, has a job lined up, ready to go before he or she graduates?
Sure. So in particular with Vet Tech, certainly are the training providers, those who are delivering the programs. Many of them have existing infrastructure to support veterans and their participants to realize a job. In particular with the Employer Consortium, we provide information to the veteran, the first in their award letter and subsequent notifications that this is available. If they sign up for the resume engine through Hiring Our Heroes, there's actually a flag that employers see that this individual is a Vet Tech participant. And so that helps the employers too in the consortium go in and be able to find our students.
That's great. Well, we thank you again for sharing those thoughts with us, and getting the vets lined up with a job once they get out is, just so crucial. We can't have them, not employed, and they have such great skill sets that they've learned in the military. It's a shame not to use them immediately. And we've seen that in our company, just great leaders, coming to work and taking those skills that are so transferable to private enterprise. So thank you. And we look forward to working to help improve that employment pipeline over time. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
I thank my friend, Representative Trone. Just a couple more questions, if I might, Mr. De Silva. You mentioned during my first round of questions that veterans self-attest during the application process that they're unemployed due to the pandemic. Does VA accept this self-attestation in all circumstances, or does VA do any follow-up verification?
And that attestation is accepted during that application process, yes.
Okay, thank you for that. In your testimony, also, you cite issues related to the institutions approved to provide VRAP training, specifically that public schools find the payment terms too onerous to participate. Are there ways that VA can adjust the program to make it more attractive for public schools to participate?
Thank you for the question. So as mentioned in the testimony, when we've rolled out VRAP and had discussions with public institutions, one of the items that has come up is that the payment structure doesn't align with their accounting practices. They're not allowed to do it, to take payments in that model due to internal guidelines. So certainly this is something we would like to discuss with the committee and others regarding, could there be adjustments to those statutory requirements that may incentivize additional public institutions to join VRAP.
Thank you for that. Has the VA seen a difference in the quality of training provided by for-profit institutions participating in VRAP as opposed to nonprofit?
Thank you for the question. Certainly, being mindful that the program is still relatively new, 70% of our participants are still in a VRAP program. We don't have that data today, but that is something that we'll take a look at and would be happy to work with the committee on providing you all that in further discussions.
Thank you. We'll look forward to that. Have any of the VRAP approved providers previously been subject to law enforcement actions for defrauding veterans?
Sir, there is a check that is done during the participation agreement piece that schools have to agree to join VRAP, and that is part of that process.
Just a couple more. Are there ways that you think we could greater incentivize institutions that are already collecting GI Bill funds to participate in VRAP?
Certainly. I think that's something that we're taking a look at in our analysis that I mentioned in the testimony, and would be happy to return to you and the committee with recommendations and maybe areas where we could adjust that might increase participation from the schools in VRAP.
Thank you for that. Some of the programs approved under VRAP are 2-year associate degrees, and that could seem counterintuitive to the intent of VRAP, which is to rapidly retrain veterans for jobs within 12 months of enrollment eligibility they have through the program. Could you comment on that?
I think, sir, the statute allows us to do that, and we certainly did not want to prevent any veteran from seeking training that would lead into a high demand occupation from taking it. And so we have seen some number of students participate in those, I would say, lengthier programs, but often what we're seeing is the shorter programs and entry-level IT, truck driving and the like. Those are the places where we're seeing most tech participants.
Thank you. How does VA define successful employment for both vet tech and VRAP?
Certainly. So in both programs, we require both the student and the training provider to certify to VA that the student has entered or has secured a job in the field that they are training in. And then certainly, specifically with vet tech, as we have gotten additional data, we are benchmarking sort of those numbers to see if there is an opportunity to make adjustments to that process.
And how does VA validate that the meaningful employment form veterans are required to fill out is done after the program completion?
Sure. So we certainly encourage and make both students and schools aware of that requirement throughout the process and throughout our administration of both programs. And then, as I mentioned, both entities, student and provider, have to sign, I think under perjury, that the information that they are providing to VA is in fact true and accurate. And then certainly during our compliance actions, our visits, we're making sure that the paperwork is in order and that what we have been provided is in fact, as I said, true and accurate.
And how does VA follow up with veterans following their employment to check on retention?
We have not yet done a longitudinal study either on vet tech or VRAP, but that is certainly in our plans as we wrap up the pilot for Vet Tech to be able to return to you all in that last congressionally mandated report specifically and provide that type of data.
It would make sense to track whether veterans are passing credentialing and certification exams that might be required for employment in the field. Is that something you anticipate?
Yes.
Good. All right. I'm out of time. Ranking Member Moore, you have a second round? Any further questions?
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask at least one.
Go right ahead.
Okay, sir. I know, how's the VA measuring the effectiveness of Vet Tech program? While we all believe that 72% job placement sounds great, should it be higher, you think, Mr. DeSilva?
I think certainly, as the Secretary has made clear, we are to be judged on the outcomes, on our outcomes, specifically veteran outcomes, and we are pushing to increase that rate to 100%. That's one of the reasons why we have launched the Employer Consortium and continue to collaborate with Hiring Our Heroes, with the Department of Labor, and also our training providers to make it very clear to them that the center of this program is not only training, but it's that employment piece at the end. And so we have taken steps to improve that, and we'll continue to do so throughout the pilot.
Okay, so and one more, Mr. Chairman, and then I'll end with this. Mr. Silva, we have heard from some Vet Tech providers that there is a significant backlog in the approval process and maybe the reapproval process. What is the current timelines for reviewing these applications, and what is the VA doing to reduce the backlog of cases?
Sure. Thank you for the question. And I know your staff was the committee staff was in Buffalo recently and heard from our staff, not only on Vet Tech and this piece, but also on what that office has done during the pandemic. But in particular, processing times for Vet Tech are generally between 70 and 90 days of when we have a complete package from a training provider. We're able to provide an answer, yes or no, within that time frame. There is quite a bit of development that often occurs with training providers to get their application, all the documentation in order. On the reapproval piece, we did hear and we understood that there was some timeliness challenges around that. It did not impact veteran enrollment. We did not stop any provider from submitting enrollments. But what we did do to address that was we have trained additional staff to be able to work on Vet Tech. And we are taking a look at the workload to see if there needs to be an additional education liaison representative assigned to that team.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, with that, I'll yield back to balance.
I thank the ranking member, and I thank Mr. DeSilva for answering our rapid fire questions. We'll now begin our second panel, consisting of representatives from veteran service organizations and Vet Tech and Vrap training providers. First, we have Alicia Boddy, Chief Development and Operations Officer for Code Platoon. Welcome, Miss Boddy. Is it Boddy or Bodie? I want to make sure I get it right.
Thank you. Yes, it is Alicia Boddy. So,
Boddy. Okay, perfect. Next, we have Joseph Sharp. Hello, Mr. Sharp. Good to see you, Director of Veterans Education and Employment at the American Legion. Welcome back. Thank you for being here. And finally, we have Bill Blackstone, Executive Vice President of Galvanize. Welcome, Mr. Blackstone. Thank you all so much for joining the subcommittee today. We also have written statements from Veterans Education Success, Divergence Academy, Code Up, and the Society for Human Resource Management, which will be entered into the record. With that, I now recognize Ms. Boddy for 5 minutes.
thank you, and good morning, Chairman Levin, Ranking Member Moore, and members of the committee. Thank you for inviting me here to discuss the VA's funding programs for technology and other high-demand jobs. I am the school certifying official for Code Platoon. That is, I complete all of the electronic filings to the VA and am the point of contact for both the VA and students. Code Platoon is a nonprofit coding bootcamp with a mission to train the military community to become professional software developers. We host in-person classes in Chicago, as well as remote learning. We have trained over 230 students since our first class in 2016, including 85 Vet Tech students, but only 8 Vrap students. I'm here today in support of making both Vet Tech and Vrap permanent programs by combining the best of both. Code Platoon was one of the first approved Vet Tech providers. In the summer of 2019, I formed the Vet Tech Working Group, a standing monthly call with vet tech training providers. We are frequently joined by the VA's vet tech processing team in Buffalo. A provider noted that these calls are the best training we receive each month. As we've discussed, job placement is a key metric for vet tech and Vrap. The VA withholds 50% of the vet tech tuition payment and 25% of the Vrap tuition payment until the student finds meaningful employment, which is required within 180 days of graduation. Job placement and tracking has inherently been part of the design of code schools from their inception in 2011. In fact, code schools formed an association to create reporting standards for job placement and post that data on the group's website. It is this commitment to job placement that makes code schools uniquely qualified to support these programs. Vet tech, Vrap, and the GI Bill all have different approval processes. Each year, vet tech providers are required to submit over 30 pages of documentation to vet tech's approval team. I've shared a detailed timeline of this approval and the issues we experienced recently with staff. During our January 22 vet tech working group call, the approvals team announced that the process is undergoing considerable and meaningful updates. I want to especially thank Bill Spruce, Darlene Graves, Sarah Beth Dean, and Peter Anastasi for their tireless efforts in working with the vet tech working group. Vrap is another story. We have not been able to establish the same relationship with the Vrap team. In fact, communication from Vrap often comes from an email that does not accept replies. Most Vrap providers are universities, community, and technical colleges, and include providers who have had issues with their GI Bill approvals. We have provided staff an analysis of Vrap programs by provider and state. While community and technical colleges are undervalued and certainly can play a role in workforce development, perhaps the VA could be more intentional to approve programs with a high demand for workers and greater likelihood of securing meaningful employment. The vet tech budget consistently exhausts our funding prior to the end of the fiscal year, leaving thousands of veterans unable to participate in our training programs. Code Platoon is currently enrolling students for our May 24th class, but we have no idea if funding will actually be available. In contrast, Vrap was allotted $386 million. This budget has barely been spent. Vet tech students are not eligible for Vrap. As a short-term solution, please consider moving $45 million from the Vrap budget to the vet tech budget immediately. This will allow providers to continue training veterans through this fiscal year. The funding level for vet tech should also increase moving forward. Vet tech and Vrap are innovative tools to change the narrative on VA educational benefits. My written testimony includes suggestions on what to include in a permanent program. The vet tech working group is more than willing to provide further suggestions. We can use these programs to focus on building the modern economy by filling high demand tech jobs through coding boot camps and other short-term or accelerated learning programs. Thank you for the opportunity to share my experience with the vet tech and Vrap. I've seen firsthand the impact these programs are having on our veterans. One Code Platoon graduate who attended using vet tech recently shared, if you teach a veteran to code, they can support themselves and their families for a lifetime. Code Platoon, through their training program, is remobilizing veterans with a sense of purpose, and you can't put a price tag on that. This concludes my testimony, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Body. I now recognize Mr. Sharp for 5 minutes.
Chairman Levin, Ranking Member Moore, and distinguished members of the Economic Opportunities Subcommittee. America faces a workforce development crisis. As of November 2021, over 10 million jobs remain vacant as employers continue to face immense difficulty filling positions across nearly every sector of the economy. Strategic industries such as construction and manufacturing are especially vulnerable to this unprecedented worker shortage. Low unemployment and increased demand for high-skilled labor due to an aging workforce and a lack of adequately skilled younger workers to preserve institutional knowledge aggravate the current state of affairs. Certifying workers through reskilling and upskilling opportunities can mitigate the skills gap disparity by generating a near-term workforce with the necessary talent employers require to fill available jobs. Veterans and service members are well poised to serve industry needs as their military training equips them with various technological proficiencies and soft skills needed in critical occupations. Providing economic opportunities for veterans and their families is a top priority for the American Legion. To be a valuable candidate in the 21st century workforce, veterans need training opportunities that are affordable, flexible, and applicable to their desired industries. While some veterans utilize the GI Bill benefits to pursue the conventional four-year education, intensive short-term programs can effectively develop the skills that today's employers require, allowing veterans to swiftly reposition themselves in the job market to address today's economic challenges. The Vet Tech and Vrap programs serve as excellent unconventional job training prospects for veterans seeking to quickly integrate into the labor market and acquire gainful employment. To date, approximately 5,000 veterans have used Vet Tech and 4,000 have used Vrap to pursue an education that provides high-demand skills to the American economy. The American Legion commends those initiatives and would like to provide recommendations for consideration to the committee moving forward. First, the American Legion calls on Congress to increase VA training program offerings and access for vet tech throughout the nation and its territories, as only 16 states currently have approved training providers available. Additionally, Congress should require a report detailing demographic, geographic, and diversity, equity, inclusion metrics of applicants rather than just age to ensure that the program is best positioned to serve an increasingly diverse veteran population. Furthermore, given its success in helping provide veterans gainful employment as a pilot program, the American Legion urges that Vet Tech be renewed past its current sunset date and expanded so that future veterans and employers continue to benefit from this program. Vrap is available until it sunsets on December 11th, reaches its funding limit of $386 million, or achieves a participant threshold of 17,250. To date, only roughly a quarter of the funding has been utilized. To boost veteran engagement in Vrap, Congress should work with the VA, Department of Labor, and American Job Centers to increase program outreach to meet the funding participant limits. Additionally, Congress should eliminate the Vrap program eligibility cutoff age of 66 to provide older veterans access to this vital benefit. Moreover, Congress should ask the VA to clarify what constitutes unemployment specifically attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic as criteria for VRAP eligibility. Since the current criteria is ambiguous, many qualified veterans may shy away from the program due to falsely believing they are ineligible. Finally, the American Legion calls on Congress to expand VRAP eligibility to any veteran who is currently unemployed or underemployed. Chairman Levin, Ranking Member Moore, and distinguished members of the subcommittee, on behalf of our National Commander Paul E. Dillard and our nearly 2 million members, we thank you for the opportunity to allow us to provide our position on these programs. I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharp. I now recognize Mr. Blackstone for 5 minutes.
Chairman Levin, Ranking Member Moore, and members of the committee. On behalf of Galvanize, I'm honored to appear before you today to talk about 2 programs that help veterans secure high-demand jobs, Vet Tech and Vrap. I'm Bill Blackstone, the Executive Vice President for Operations at Galvanize. Our company was founded in 2012 with a mission of providing quality, relevant coding training to students looking for a career in software engineering. Our company provides software and technical skills training programs to employees of Fortune 500 companies, active duty personnel, transitioning service members through DoD SkillBridge, and veteran and civilian consumers enrolling in our Hack Reactor branded consumer education products. These programs range from full-time and part-time immersive training, commonly referred to as coding boot camps, to bespoke reskilling and upskilling programs. Galvanize is an outcomes-driven education company. Simply put, our business depends on meeting our clients' objectives and our graduates getting jobs. As a result, we must remain agile and relevant in our course offerings, or students will look for other educational opportunities. The job growth in the technology industry presents a significant opportunity for veterans. While boot camp graduates typically see starting salaries averaging above $69,000, veterans average 11% higher wages as software engineers compared to non-veterans. Further, with 81% of employed veterans earning below $60,000 per year, programs such as VetTech provide a needed on-ramp to higher lifetime earning potential for veterans and their families. Galvanize is a strong supporter of VetTech program. As a preferred VetTech provider, we have agreed to only receive full tuition payment if a student finds meaningful employment within the field of study within 6 months of graduation. Otherwise, Galvanize receives no further payments and must refund all tuition received. In other words, we have 100% tuition liability that is directly tied to the student's vocational success. Since 2019, we have educated 474 veterans, 316 of those enrolled using VetTech benefits. Of those using VetTech, 73% have been employed in their field of study, many being employed by some of our nation's top technology companies with an average starting salary just over $90,000, far above the National Coding Bootcamp average. The success of this program is best viewed, however, through the eyes of those benefiting most from VetTech. Sergeant Travis Williams was a ground communication repairman in the United States Marine Corps. After completing his service, Travis spent an unfulfilling 2 years in the tax industry. Looking for a career transition, he discovered the Hack Reactor 12-week coding bootcamp program at Galvanize through VetTech. Without the VetTech benefit, the transition into becoming a software engineer would have been nearly impossible for Travis without suffering extreme financial hardship. After attending our program, Travis received a job offer 2.5 months after graduation with a household name technology company. This offer included a 5-figure signing bonus and a starting salary 50% higher than the Galvanize average VetTech starting salary. In Travis's words, the outcome was literally a dream come true. There have been significant improvements to the VetTech program over the last year, including increases in funding to broadening the eligibility to include transitioning service members. In addition, the VA program staff in the Buffalo, New York office have been nothing short of world-class. Even with all of its merits, there are areas of potential improvement for the VetTech program. First, the unevenness of funding has a significant impact on both veterans and providers. In order to participate in a VetTech approved program, many veterans quit their jobs. In fiscal year 21, when funding ran out without warning nearly 6 weeks into the fiscal year, many veterans who were accepted and about to start their training were forced to scramble for alternative funding sources or attempt to rejoin the workforce. In addition, providers in the VetTech network face significant business disruption in the event of VetTech funds running out without warning. Creating a sustainable and predictable funding source will allow veterans and providers to better plan and will likely improve interest in the program. Second, while the VetTech administration team is amazing, they are severely understaffed, which may cause issues. For example, some students are faced with delays getting their eligibility confirmed prior to the start of the program. We strongly recommend investing in additional program staff resources to help support the program. Further, additional investment in online and automated tools, such as those being utilized by the GI Bill administration, will help alleviate delays. Galvanize also participates in the Vrap program. It is important to note that the program is narrowly focused. When one evaluates the criteria for eligibility, it starts narrowing the possible recipients down to a very small group. Further, out of that reduced population, it is even more challenging to find individuals interested and equipped to become software engineers. Vrap also faces the challenge of being a new program. In our experience with VetTech, it took nearly a year to see large adoption of the program. As a mission and outcomes-driven organization, we take pride in our success of our students, especially those who have honorably served our country. We have seen firsthand the benefits of veterans in our classroom and as employees. The VetTech and Vrap programs provide a significant opportunity to veterans, and we are extremely grateful for the committee and the VA's extraordinary work in establishing and continuously improving both programs. Galvanize is committed to the success of our veterans, and we look forward to remaining a partner with Congress and the VA. Once again, thank you for the opportunity to present testimony today, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Blackstone. We'll get to the question portion of our hearing, and I'll recognize myself for 5 minutes to begin. Ms. Spotty, wanted to thank you for your detailed testimony. Really appreciated your comments on the job placement issues that exist within Vrap, and I want to dig into these a bit. You mentioned that job placement is part of a code school's innate operating model, unlike a traditional or a technical school. Can you please discuss the differences in how code schools specifically place veterans into jobs?
Yes, thank you for the question. So since the beginning of code schools, and certainly since the beginning of Code Platoon in 2016, part of our mission is not just to train our veterans, but to also get them into jobs. So we have a robust career services department that works with employers, works with our students to make sure that they're finding opportunities immediately after graduation. It's never been enough for us to just do the training. We want to make sure that they get those first jobs and really get their careers started. I think in contrast, some of our traditional higher ed, they focus, on the training, but the career services component is just not there the way it is with code schools.
Got it. Thank you. To your knowledge, is VA providing any technical assistance to traditional schools on how to fulfill the job placement requirements of Urap?
I'm not sure.
All right, fair enough. Mr. Sharp, I appreciate your testimony regarding VRAP, and I share your concerns about low enrollment rates. You may have heard our interaction with the previous witness or the first panel. To what extent does the American Legion attribute the low uptake in VRAP participation, or I guess to what do you attribute the low participation rate, and what suggestions do you have for how VA can increase enrollment?
Well, the American Legion has always been concerned that many of our veterans who are not taking advantage of many of the benefits and opportunities that they've earned since they've left the military, that there just seems to be an issue with outreach, being able to get the information out to veterans, especially our veterans that are located in rural areas and some of our urban areas. That information just doesn't seem to be getting out in a way that veterans can make decisions on how they would like to pursue their occupations or become gainfully employed.
Got it. Thank you very much. Mr. Blackstone, I'll turn to you. I appreciated your testimony regarding how Galvanize tailors its curriculum to the needs of employers, including the Department of Defense. Can you please discuss how Galvanize has been able to develop a curriculum to build off of veterans' existing military skills to prepare them for civilian government jobs?
Thank you for the question. This is seen most in our transition programs where we work with active duty service members who are transitioning out of active duty service and into civilian workforce. We provide a programming wrapper that includes everything from how to pay rent and how to make sure that you're going grocery shopping every week, all the way to understanding workforce environments and how to communicate appropriately in an office environment. We take, obviously, outcomes extremely seriously as a company. And with these veterans who are transitioning out of the service, who have not had meaningful employment in civilian life, it is important that we provide these additional services.
Thank you for that answer. You also mentioned that Galvanize works with Fortune 500 employers, many of which I understand might still require a college degree for most mid to high level positions. In your experience, do veterans without a 2 or 4 year degree have a harder time finding employment after finishing a training program?
I think it's important to note that the data shows that statistically, veterans going through coding boot camps have around the same opportunity for employment as civilian individuals going through coding boot camps. In addition, they're seeing anywhere from 8 to 11% higher wage earning potential than civilian students. In these companies, many of these companies have diversity and equity and inclusion efforts that include purposely hiring and being intentional with hiring veterans. And so we do see kind of additional partnership there and do not see a significant reduction in the ability to be hired.
Thank you very much. No further questions, but I just want to thank you all for the great work that you're doing to get our veteran community ready for their next service in the community, whatever occupation they may choose. Thank you all for that. And with that, I'll turn to the ranking member for his questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Body, we have heard from some vet tech providers that there is a significant backlog in the approval and reapproval process. Will you please share your experience with the VA regarding the backlog for these approvals?
Yes, thank you for the question. Most recently, vet tech providers had to provide their reapproval packets as of August 30th of this year, and then of 2021. And then we had to have all those approvals in before the fiscal year started on October 1st. And so this really just became an impossible deadline for the approvals team. Each provider had over 30 documents that were required, and multiply that by 32 providers. And it was just, it created quite a backlog. I know as of November, we only had 6 providers that had been approved. And it took well into January to get the rest of us approved. So we received real-time feedback. We took our working group calls seriously through those fall meetings and worked very, very closely with the approvals team and the processing team to get these fixes made. And now, happy to say that approvals is working with the providers, and we've got a new process in place, and we should be able to get these done much quicker as we go into the next fiscal year.
Yeah, I could see where that would be extremely challenging. You got 900 pages to have done in 60 days, right?
Yes. Yeah. I don't envy their position at all. It was a lot as one provider to put that information out there, but certainly having to receive that information is incredibly difficult.
Ms. Body, if it makes you feel any better, some days up here, we've got 2 days to do 3,000 pages. So we feel your pain. Mr. Blackstone, a quick question for you. In order to be eligible to participate in a vet tech, a veteran must be eligible for GI Bill entitlement and have at least 1 day of unused entitlement. Should Congress decide to make this program permanent, do you believe that we should charge participants an entitlement for usage of the program so that they have some skin in the game, so to speak?
Thank you, Ranking Member Moore. Before I answer that, I would be remiss not to say roll tide. Saw your coffee cup.
Yeah, hey, we're a basketball school now.
It's true, sir. When we look at the students who participate in vet tech, it's important that those students make a good faith effort in the job search process. And currently, while there is a very aligned incentive between the government, between the veteran and the provider, especially as a preferred provider having 100% tuition liability, there's a great alignment in that around getting that individual a job and meaningful employment in the field of study. However, there is not a lot of protective rule sets around, especially for providers who have veterans who go through our program who have either one, no intention of going into that field of study, but more commonly, we have struck an interest in software engineering and technology, and they are going to 2- and 4-year institutions to receive a computer science degree. So I think it's important as we look at putting this program in place permanently, that we do put rule sets in place that provide a level of, as you've mentioned, skin in the game for the veterans. I don't know if removing entitlement is the best course of action. It may be solved as simply as signing agreements with a good intention, good faith job search.
Well, thank you, Mr. Blackstone. And with that, I'll say War Eagle and yield back, Mr. Chairman.
We'll have to take this offline, gentlemen. Thank you, Ranking Member Moore. I believe my good friend from the great state of Arizona, Representative Gallego, is on. Ruben, are you there? There he is.
Sorry about
all
that.
right.
I thought it was going to be Representative Moore next. I apologize.
It's all good. Ruben, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Questions first is for Mr. Blackstone. Thank you for being here. I'm very happy to tell you that I actually have a Galvanize campus in my district. It really has been an amazing center, especially community center too. And it really does incredible work for veterans and a lot of other members of our community that want to just upgrade their skills. My question to you is, how have past funding shortfalls in the vet tech program affect your ability to recruit veterans for your training programs? And how important is it to pass legislation to make sure vet tech has the resources it needs to offer reliable services?
Thank you, sir. I think it is important to note the pathway for these veterans into meaningful employment. And for many of the providers, including us, these veterans are quitting their normal day job to fully 100% concentrate on their education.
Mhm.
And so, as mentioned in my written testimony, there are instances where veterans have already quit their job. They are about to start the program, and then funding runs out, and they are left scrambling for finding resources for their family. And I think it's important that we provide a stable foundation of predictable funding, especially for those veterans who are wanting to change the trajectory of their career.
Thank you. Mr. Sharp, VetTech is truly a unique program that's meant to help veterans fill high demand jobs and give them the skills they need to be competitive. Can you expand on the importance of this type of education opportunity for veterans, and how does it complement the benefits offered under the GI Bill?
We think it's a very important and crucial program, not only for veterans, but it's in a national interest to make sure that these veterans are coming out, that they're gainfully employed. During the height of the pandemic in April of 2020, we had 700,000 veterans that were unemployed. 50% of those individuals were in the service sector. It's our goal to try and move those individuals out of those particular positions and put them in gainful employment. If you have 62% of the adult population that's currently working, making $20,000 and less, that's not gainful employment. And for veterans that are leaving these particular tech jobs that are making between $50,000 and $60,000 starting off, it's not only helping that veteran and that family become stable and contribute to their various communities, but it's also assisting the country as far as having a skilled workforce. If we continue talking about bringing back manufacturing back to the country, then we need a skilled workforce to do that. And these type programs do that. So that's something that we're very pleased that VA is doing, and more should be done.
Thank you. And then just last question is, I also want to ask you, have any suggestions for how the VetTech program can be improved for veterans and ensure it runs smoothly and efficiently?
Well, the American Legion's also been very concerned with pathways to employment. That's why the American Legion has always been an advocate of improving the TAP program, that when veterans leave the military, that they are given the opportunity to find jobs that will train them and to hire them and make sure that they're gainfully employed. The American Legion's done a lot as far as licensing and certifications. We've always wanted the military to become a professional organization where it's an employer of choice and not last resort. And that has a lot to do with the training that veterans receive and the continued training that they receive once they leave the military, so they are gainfully employed. And the VetTech program, along with any other program that VA or DOD or any other federal government is doing, there should be one portal for veterans. So when they leave, they can see every training opportunity that there's out there and any type of employment job that's looking for veterans. Right now, things seem to be scattered among from the various federal agencies. We would like to see them more working together to help get the word out and do a better job of making sure that veterans are gainfully employed.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield my time back.
I thank my friend from Arizona. If there are no further questions, we can bring this hearing to a close. I really want to thank our witnesses who have joined us today. All members will have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and include additional materials. Without objection, the subcommittee stands adjourned.